No, yeah, you actually absolutely have to. It's something we always say to our students. If you want to learn a language, you've just got to do it. You've just got to chant your Sanskrit paradigm. You don't necessarily understand it. And that's the key thing. And again, Shankara would have had a fit at that notion. He really, really didn't like people learning texts that they didn't understand. He was very keen that people should engage with texts that they actually understood. All right, that's our last one. Copying shows respect. Okay, you're making a horrible face there. Go on, why are you making a horrible face? Come on, you've got to explain your horrible face. Because you don't believe it. You do believe it.
No, I don't understand it.
You don't understand it. Right, that's fair enough. Okay. You don't understand it. Why on earth should copying show respect? Well, it is absolutely amazing the number of students I have who say, oh, we can't put it in our own words because so-and-so's the expert, and so we'll just copy what they put because that must be right. And this is UK students, and I have to say it's often students from India who have been taught that the best way of offering respect to your teacher is to replicate the teacher's words word for word, because the teacher knows, and therefore what you do to give respect to the teacher is to replicate those words. When you say to me, yes, but I don't want to know that, I want to know what you think, I want to know how you're engaging with it, it really frightens them. It frightens a lot of my students as well, who have been taught the appalling... Kitty, did you want to say something?
Well, they say copying is not nice because if you copy them, they think that they don't like your idea, but it's actually that they like the idea and they think that it's nice to copy them without making that.
That's very brilliantly put, actually. Did everybody hear that?
Yeah. Can you please repeat it? Can you please
Kitty, come here and just speak near my microphone. Come right here, then my microphone.
It's better to copy because they might think that we like their idea.
It's exactly it. Yeah. So she said just now you might think that they didn't like you if they copied you. But actually, what is it? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Yeah. Okay, and you're right there. Now, of course, Shankara, held in great respect people who'd gone before him, and he quoted them. And that's very good practice. We like our students to quote. What we don't like is for them to lift chunks and pretend it's theirs. And I hope that none of you go to schools that do this. It's my least favourite form of student work. You go on the web, and you put a word in Google, and then use that nice little copy facility, and then you bung it into something that you're doing. It's like a cut and paste. I'm sure you never do it. My poor children from this age, yeah, from about your height ever actually, were told never ever plagiarise. And one day, I think then 10-year-old, was in a class and they were doing a project on Victorians. And they were cutting and pasting stuff and putting it into their class book. And poor old Sarah put up her hand and said, I don't think you should do that, it's plagiarising. And her teacher said to her, do you know what plagiarise means? And Sarah said, yes, it means copying and thieving other people's work. And the teacher went, oh. Now, if you'd been the teacher, what would you do? What she actually did was put it to a class vote. And the class actually voted to use that material, with the exception of my daughter, of whom I was extremely proud, who resisted the temptation to copy and paste. So copying can be very, very bad because it makes you very lazy and it doesn't make you think. And Shankara wouldn't have liked that kind of copying at all. So yes, you're absolutely right, Kitty. You do use other people's words to show respect to them and show that their ideas were good. And nowadays you put it in quotation marks and you say where it comes from. Shankara didn't need to do that because if he quoted a bit of the Upanishads, he knew that his audience would know where it came from. They recognise it. He doesn't like it. I came into this church on Sunday morning and I said, in the beginning was the word. People in the church would know where it came from. I wouldn't have to tell them that it came from the beginning of John's Gospel. Yeah? So, and we've all got things stored in our minds like that. And Shankara's pupils and people who talked to him would have had a huge number of these texts actually up here that they would have recognised. Okay, let's find out what methods Shankara uses when he's teaching them. Right, okay, stop that. He's going to use questioning, and I'm going to come back to that, because I think actually it's one of his most important contributions to us nowadays. So I'm going to come back to that one. Right, are you ready for the next bullet point, girls? Okay, the next one is...
Sorry, before could I ask a question? Is it okay, or do you want to reserve questions?
You're more than welcome, Ganesh.
So, you know, you talked about Vedas and Upanishads now and about teaching. There is also this notion that a lot of these sounds are themselves sacred and have an impact.
Yeah.
So, you know, you pay obeisance to the deities, it has an impact on the surrounding environment, and even if you didn't understand what it was, just repeating it faithfully has an immense positive impact.
Yeah.
And that's why in a lot of Hindu festivals and these things are chanted, even though people didn't understand it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's actually something that in another context I make very, very clear to my students, because actually we're obsessed in the way about understanding text, and what we don't understand is that texts also have functions, and things like Om, Swaha, Swaha. It's a very clear example of a text that has a function. It doesn't mean something. The Gayatri mantra, Om Swaha, it doesn't mean something, it does something. And in fact, one of the things, I wouldn't dare do it in an audience like this, because it would be extremely pretentious of me. But with my students, I don't know whether you've heard me doing this before, but I will actually chant Om, and you've had some very, very beautiful sounds when you were doing your, okay. And you would be amazed in any class of any students that you do it with, the atmosphere in the room just changes. And that, more than anything I could say to them, tells them what Ganesh was saying, that these syllables have effects, and they can actually sense that really, really clearly. But tonight I'm talking about the other side of things, which is the importance of understanding text. But what you say is incredibly important. Yeah. Okay. So he uses examples. Okay, let's have the next. Right. I need you with your visual aid. Different. Is the space in each of the girls' pots the same or different?
No, there's nothing.
Okay, come on, what are you saying? What's your reply?
Depends if there's something in the pot.
No.
They're all
Show them the pot. Okay, absolutely nothing in the pot whatsoever. An empty pot. Okay, is the space the same or not? Okay, there's quite a few nods from people with an Advaitin tendency. Okay. All right, one of you who's nodding, why would you like to justify your view? Why is it the same?
Space is space.
Space is space. Okay. We'll come. What's the pot doing then?
It's just showing the limit of the space. But the space is obviously limitless.
Okay, so the space is the same, but the pot is limiting the space. Okay, now that's an Advaitin view of understanding us. Okay, so you're the clay pot now. Imagine yourself as the clay pot. Yeah. So your consciousness, your Atman, is the same as the person next to you, the person next to you in the room. The only thing that makes you different is that you have got a clay pot, a body of mind, which is limiting off that principle of consciousness. Now, in fact, don't worry, those of you who didn't say yes, who said no. Okay, Deepa, why did you say no?
Because they would know better for themselves that the space inside that girl's glass is different from the space inside the other girl's glass. They would say that themselves. It doesn't need me to say it.
Okay. Well,
because that is defining.
Okay, so it's defining. So in fact, there are lots of other thinkers who would agree with Deepa. Let's take Ramanuja. Ramanuja would agree. Right? Each of us has an individual Atman, an individual self or principle of consciousness, which is dependent upon Brahman, ultimate reality, but nonetheless we can tell the difference of ourselves from Brahman. Okay, so now then, this one actually is just going to need me to give my ring to my husband so that I don't lose it. You don't mind if I do this, do you? Sometimes my students get really horrified. They say, do you take your wedding ring off? Yes. I'm going to put it back on again in a minute. All right. Who's going to be... You can hold it. No, you can hold it. All right. All right, hold it up for them. All right. Right. What's the